Let me know. Okay. Welcome everybody, and nice to see some new people out tonight. Some people are going to be sitting up here, and Dean and Judy, nice to see you out, and David. And so we'll get started. There's a few people have some activities later on that we're going, and we won't drag you out in this weather like tonight too long. So it's our last meeting with our current council, and then the next council will be the new council. So just with some sadness that I sit here and after 4 years being with this council and looking forward to the new council, but at the same time feeling some sadness that we're going to be missing some people. Anyways, going forward, we'll call it to order. Disclosure any pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Anybody got any conflicts? Okay, no. Moving to minutes of the previous meeting, November 4th. Council minutes. Moved by Deputy Mayor Fisk, second by Councillor Hamley. What's this?
Close.
Oh, Turton. Councillor Turton.
Well, you know, almost as good as Hamley, but.
That minutes, well, we got a double up here. The minutes of the November 4th, 2014 council meeting be approved as circulated. All in favor? Trying to fool me already. My last hurrah here. Moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Turton. The Town of Minto Council convenes in the committee of the whole. All in favor? Additional items of other business. Ron has one. As you say, if you got something at the end, let me know.
I got some at the end.
Oh, Ron and Ron?
Yeah.
Oh, better be really at the end.
They are quiet.
Okay, let's just say everybody has one. All right, good. No public meeting. Delegation. We're lucky to have Karen Armstrong here. Walkability Award update. I almost said walkabitty.
Walkability. Walkabout.
Welcome. Nice day for a walk, eh? Beautiful. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mayor Bridge and Council. So I'm here tonight on behalf of Canada Walks and Public Health, and I'm pleased to present your Walkability Award to you. So before I do, the designation you have received, before I give that announcement, I want to give you a bit of an overview of how they came to decide which level you'll get. These steps were highlighted by Canada Walks in determining your designation. So the town of Minto was a very early supporter of walkability, beginning more than 7 years ago with involvement in the Walk 21 conference, engaged with the National Center for Bicycling and Walking, and conducted walkability audits. Now this was specifically noted in your designation as a great example of how a small town with limited resources can stay focused to make improvements. Secondly, you have strong council commitment. There is a Minto Walkable Communities Committee chaired by Councillor Hemley, as well as dedicated staff. You also have a strong partnership with Public Health, and Canada Walks noted that these partnerships have been keys to your success. There's been a demonstrated investment in walking through your community improvement plans, your streetscape plans, your development of trail linkages. Your plans have not sat on a shelf, they've been followed and they've been implemented. Minto is also using a developer's checklist to help guide new development and create a healthy, active community. Second last, the town of Minto really walks the talk. Any challenge we've had in this region, whether it's the commuter challenge, in motion challenge, every time Minto won first place. So
Speak well last time. That was the nice feather in the cap when I was able to tell Karen how well we crushed them the last time after they bragged about beating us.
Yes, you are the most physically active council in Wellington County, Dufferin County, and the city of Guelph. So, finally, a school travel plan is underway at Minto Clifford Public School. They're looking at ways to reduce barriers to walking and cycling for kids. So the award. The award comes from Green Communities Canada, Canada Walks. This is the second round they've had these awards. They received 6 applications. 3 communities received a designation and 1 was given honorable mention. The award comes in 4 formats, whether it's honorable mention, bronze, silver, and gold. And the goal really is to provide recognition, encouragement, feedback, and that'll help the Walkable Communities Committee move forward. So at this point, I'm pleased to announce the town of Minto has received a bronze level award. So congratulations. We had to answer 220 plus questions.
I know, a lot of questions. Linda.
That's good.
And Matt, yeah.
And Matt, yeah, and Rick.
And Rick, yeah.
Unfortunately, Canada Walks couldn't be here tonight, so I'm filling in. They would like to present a full large frame certificate to you at a later date, but we wanted to ensure this council got recognition. So in the interim, if Councillor Hembley wants to come forward, Rick is the chair of the Walkable Communities Committee and has been instrumental in supporting the county active transportation plan and walking and cycling.
Well, Linda and Matt,
I think, yeah, I was gonna say, get Belinda and Matt up there too.
they're my team, so.
Good work, Rick.
They will, yeah. So the full report is
How do I? God, don't snuggle up with me. Bill's getting in there.
Oh,
Good job.
I would find out what the word behind that code is.
Oh, he said that on once before.
He did that once before? No. Thanks, Karen.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
You sticking around, Karen?
I am.
Oh, you're up. Great. Okay. Public question period. Anybody got a question? Well, correspondence received for information requiring direction of council. We had no agendas, and we had correspondence scanned and emailed November 14th, 2015. We have to, just a motion to receive those. Councillor Hamley? Kurt, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Yes.
May I just ask, that was in regards to the Harrison Christmas parade.
Mhm.
Can you tell me the dates of all the parades?
Yes. The Harrison was the
You would've sent that to.
29th.
You just sent it to me.
Yeah, the 29th, I think, is Harrison at 3
Harrison
o'clock,
and
and
Clifford?
Clifford at 7, and then the next Saturday, the next Friday, Saturday?
The 6th is the Saturday, I think.
The 6th is in
6th
Palmerston,
Palmerston.
the night,
The 6th, okay.
That's
7, yeah.
Thank you.
No committee reports. Minutes, economic development. Linda?
Feels weird when it's the last council meeting.
Don't think about it.
Okay, so quickly, I'm just gonna go over the highlights of our minutes. Since May, I was working on a certified sites application for the Ministry of Economic Development, and we were able to get that in. So we have a 14.5 acre parcel in the Palmerston Industrial Park that has been submitted for this special designation. So we will know by December 22nd if we move on to the next round, which will involve an even more in-depth application. So we are in for the first round. The last Economic Development Committee, we talked a lot about a secret shopper, and both of our downtown groups and the Economic Development Committee are all in favor of bringing a secret shopper in, making sure all of our businesses are aware that we are doing this in terms of retail and restaurants, and giving them a little bit of time to opt out of the program. So anyone could be secret shopped. We only have a limited number that we will be doing, but people can opt out if they don't want to have their business secret shop. So we did come to that consensus. We have a facade application grant. So we have a new property owner in Palmerston who is really keen on investing in properties and in Palmerston specifically. And he has purchased the old Masons, or the former Masons building. And this is his facade grant application here. He's doing some energy efficiency upgrades in terms of windows and doors and making that look a lot nicer on the front of where the Bookery used to be. That whole building is part of his building, but it's the focus on that storefront. So we have that recommendation in there. Chamber update, so Christmas social, everyone is invited to come to the Chamber Christmas social on December 1st at Harry Stone's at 7 p.m. Mark your calendar for the general meeting, which is February 9th at 7 at the Clifford Community Hall. And then tomorrow night, President Tony Tostros, myself, and Mayor Bridge are traveling, I guess that's Thursday night, to Grey Highlands to present at their AGM on how the town and the chamber partner together for a vibrant business community. I was gonna show the Launch It promotional video tonight, but I'm gonna save that and let Carissa do that when it is 100% complete. But it is a good shot, and the Economic Development Committee did get to look at that. We are looking more into the situation with the midwives. I don't know if people are aware of what's going on there, but it was brought to our attention that there's some contract negotiation stuff happening with the midwives in our community, and they are a big support in our community for many people, and so we're just gonna look into that and provide them with support where needed. Launch It, Jonathan Zettler is our ag rep, and he sees great potential in Launch It being a center for agricultural business information as well. So we have, we're gonna start looking into opportunities there. And furthering on with our business retention expansion stuff, we always do monthly corporate call program, but we want to look more into an ongoing sort of business retention expansion visits that aren't a full-length survey, just more touching base with our business community. We have good relationships, but we can even do a better job there. And just a correction in the minutes, the next meeting is not November 13th,
Yeah.
it's December 11th,
Yeah.
so. I think that's it, unless there's any questions.
Questions for Belinda? Ron?
There's a new business started down William Street. I noticed the food, some kind of JS or food.
It is a new business that started already.
Well, it looks like it's got a sign on it and they're
Which building is it in?
The coach house?
right beside the coach house or the.
Yep.
Yes, so it's my understanding it's a Filipino food,
Food, ethnic food.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
kind of like a grocery store, but
Oh, really?
specific to
All
Philippines.
kinds of questions about it and I didn't.
Yeah, that's my
And
understanding.
we don't know who bought the
Ed and Sandra Pinksy's
Pinsky's
building.
building yet, but it was sold as well.
I saw that.
Yeah. There's lots of activity going on.
The commercial end of it on the bottom side of the building.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, we'll only go there.
That was a
Anyways.
mistake.
Yeah, thanks.
Good thinking.
Motion to approve the minutes. Counselor Elliott and Counselor Faulkner, all in favor?
Ron and Ron.
Want to get everybody in. I want to get everybody in tonight. Okay. I don't want you to say, Casey, say you weren't here. Staff reports.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge.
You get that one, Bill?
You have a copy of the report. Our closed meeting investigator has been Norm Gamble for the last at least 4 years, and perhaps before that as well. He is retiring from all the municipalities that he worked for. Fortunately, or not, we have never had the reason to call upon Mr. Gamble for his services, but we do wish him well, and Norm, coming from Grey County, I did know him quite well. So we spoke to the county. Peg did get in touch with them. They are looking to do a joint closed meeting investigator, and they have done some research and identified JGM Consulting, John Maddox, and we believe all the other member municipalities are willing to use him as well. So it's our recommendation to you that you appoint him for the next term of council. A 2-year term.
For you, Mayor Bridge, just a question in respect to, usually the requests are through FOI. And when would, if there's an actual accusation that we didn't follow closed meeting rules, that would be this? Or if it was straight information out of a closed session, that would come out of FOI, correct?
Yeah, this pertains to when you go into closed session and reasons for doing that. And so you may be familiar with the ombudsman's reports on municipalities that don't appoint their own. If you don't appoint one, then the ombudsman would come here and do that for you. So if, when, should we have the call upon this, it would only be pertaining to the reasons for going in closed session and what was considered in there. Freedom of Information Act requests are separate from that, and actually I'm your FOI person for that.
This would be like if somebody wanted information, or wanted to check to make sure we were doing the proper procedure.
Our recommendation is on the second page, that we engage JGM Consulting. Oh, just to mention the financial side of things, the county's actually gonna pay the retainer for us and for themselves. So we'll pay his hourly rate of $100 in mileage, should we need him.
I have the same arrangement I think they had with Campbell as well, I think. Maybe not.
Sounds good.
Motion to accept? Deputy Mayor Fisk? Counselor Caldwell?
No.
All in favor?
Okay. Is that what this stands for?
Yes,
Okay. I was curious.
that's it.
I was in favor, by the way.
Well, okay. You're still,
Been a long night.
all right,
Go out with a bang.
yeah. I think you're on again, aren't you?
Yes, Mayor Bridge, I had the pleasure of bringing our reports when I returned from Texas, so
Yeah.
my apologies if they're lacking in a little bit of detail, but
Are you gonna give us a summary of Texas, or?
I can if you'd like later.
Oh.
The next report is on the shared service agreement for building inspection services with the Township of North Huron. You'll recall Tim Lewis left our employ as our part-time inspector sometime early in the summer. We had a verbal agreement with Tim that he would cover for Terry on his vacations. They would like to put that in writing, and staff are certainly supportive of that. Tim knows our people and our people know Tim, and that has worked out well. I want to mention that Terry Kuipers is the only person who can do inspections, and to remind you that there is quite a significant education qualification requirement for building inspectors in the province. So when we're able to reach these reciprocal agreements, it's certainly very helpful. And you may recall we've done that on a short-term basis with other municipalities. We do have people in our building department that are working dual jobs. We think have some potential for passing some of those inspection qualifications, but that will be something that will take a little bit of time. So our recommendation is that we sign the shared service agreement with North Huron. Basically, we pay each other $50 an hour depending on the call for the service.
Through you, Mayor Bridge, I just wanted to ask you a question. He said right now Terry Kuipers is the only one that can legally, but Tim Lewis could as well if he filled in for Terry during his vacation?
That's right. He had many if not all the qualifications Terry does. I meant to say that he's the only one employed by us now.
Okay.
We have no backup. Motion to accept? Counselor Turton? Counselor Hamley? All in favor? Hit the wall there. Good. Oh, that one.
Just had a question.
Wow. Okay, we're in trouble now. Okay.
Just quickly, I noticed on the Corporation Town of North Huron bylaw number that they're signing an agreement with the corporation of the municipality of Minto.
Yeah. There's a few little typos in the agreement
I guess,
that we'll correct. That's not assigned or,
first of all, I saw it, I thought, how do I get that down?
Yeah, I know.
I always get mine off, but that's
Yeah.
neither.
Okay. We mean, Bill, if you're gonna handle the next one as well?
Council voted on that?
Yes, we voted on it.
Yeah, we hit
Yeah.
all the mics, I remember.
Okay. Hit the mics.
Update on the Harrison floodplain mapping project. Council will remember in the fall of 2013, we did a comprehensive staff report on the status of our floodplain mapping in Harrison. We pointed out to you that most of the mapping was done in the 1980s, early 1990s, back when there were different bridges of different sizes, and since then, many of them have changed. The characteristics of the watershed have changed. And also the Conservation Authority has been looking at the flow data. In the budget this year, you allocated $50,000 for us to begin to upgrade the mapping. And we were working with Triton Engineering on northward drainage concerns, and we had asked them to prepare a work plan. And we were going to have a partnership with the Conservation Authority where we would coordinate the work and get the final mapping done. The process to get floodplain mapping is fairly regimented with the province. It's kind of like doing a class environmental assessment. There's public meetings that have to be done, and there's certain requirements for information and what you present to them in order to change mapping. And one of the main components of that was what they call 3D mapping or 3D modeling. In other words, you have coordinates on the ground that show you where buildings are, but you also now have to model the height of the building and to be able to show how the water will impact on the buildings as they exist within the floodplain. So we spent some time earlier this year trying to find a reliable source for the 3D mapping. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do that. The first thing we did was contact a local consulting firm who had a drone that they were going to use to fly. And partway through the year, they said no drones for private business. So that was out. And since saw a report on the Allison tornado where the OPP had a drone and they were able to model that very quickly with that. So that may be something we can pursue because we still need that 3D portion of the mapping. The county mapping is excellent, but it's flown a little bit too high for what we may need. And I don't think the 3D was completed in the most recent version of the maps in 2010. Along with trying to find that out, we determined that the county was going to be upgrading the bridge at County Road 87. And we got in touch with the county and said, before you do that, what are you planning on doing and how might that impact the floodplain? In other words, we didn't want them changing the bridge to make it worse. And they agreed with that and paid for a consultant to assess the floodplain between the bridge and Harrison. And that study is due very soon. Last but not least, and working kind of independent of the whole process, was Dredge Engineering, who does our drainage work for municipal drains, had 2 inquiries on drains within the Maitland watershed. One is just immediately south of Harrison where Dredge Creek flows into the Maitland River. And the second was, I don't remember the number, but it's just, I guess it would be north and east of the town. And they got to looking at what would happen if all that drainage work were to be done. In other words, if you cleaned everything out, how might that impact on the floodplain? And I think Mike McIsaac, Brian brought forward the fact that maybe there's a relationship between floodplain mapping in Harrison and these municipal drains. Early in November, we brought everyone together on this and came up with a work plan with the support of Steve Jackson on the Conservation Authority. And Steve's been working very hard on this, as has a number of people, in trying to get this work done, because we do believe the floodplain mapping in Harrison should be updated. The model that they use right now is based on the Hurricane Hazel storm and the 1 in 100-year storm, and they use that to model it, and they used flows in the 80s and 90s that had quite a bit of tolerance built in. So aside from the fact that the rail bridge, for instance, behind Harrison Packers is now out, there are other bridges that have changed, there's quite a high tolerance in the flow level. So we really believe there's a chance that the floodplain mapping is not accurate and may be too broad. It may identify many properties that are actually not in the floodplain. We discussed this at our meeting in October, and Steve came up with a work plan that's $21,000 that includes some field work, modeling of the watershed again, and extra information that comes out of the monitoring equipment that he can use to verify the flow information that we're using is correct. Quite frankly, I think he believes the flows are about a third higher, maybe more, but we really don't know that, and he would like to have more information in order to help the Conservation Authority Board make that decision, and so that the engineers have a reliable flow to put into the model. So not only do we have to do the mapping work, but we have to look at the flows and determine whether they're accurate and put the right flow into the model. So we have 2 consultants working on our behalf. One is Dredge Engineering on the rural side of things, and one is Triton Engineering on the urban side of things. We're bringing them all together, we're making sure there's no overlap, and we're getting information that will help, I think, in 2015 with proceeding with the floodplain mapping. So we're requesting that you approve the work plan presented by Steve Jackson, which is attached to the report, at a cost of $21,000. That will come out of your $50,000 budget this year. We don't believe there's been anything else spent out of that at this point in time. If there is, it's quite small amounts. So we're still moving in the right direction. A lot of information is coming together. The last thing I'll say is that one thing we did learn is that the Maitland River between County Road 87 and Harrison is part of a municipal drain. And if doing work on that part of the river is something that will help the floodplain, there may be a way of having the whole watershed contribute towards that.
That's a good bonus, yeah.
So it's all looking positive. There's gonna be a lot more meetings to come forward, a lot more work that has to be done, but certainly recommending you proceed with this.
Just to clear, through you, Mayor Bridge, and perhaps Public Works Director Brian Hanson, I believe on the county tour, Dredge Creek is the bridge that they're going to repair or put new next year, and they're just going to Band-Aid the bridge over the Maitland. Because one's just past, the Dredge Creek Bridge is just past the main Maitland Bridge. And then, I believe that's on the county tour, that's what they told us they were going to do.
I think one was an overflow system.
You want to come up, Brian, because otherwise we're,
Yeah, which is Dredge Creek.
it's Dredge Creek.
Yeah, from my understanding, Dredge Creek is the overflow system for the main, river that goes through there. So, yeah.
And I think that's the bridge they said they were going to put in new, and that they weren't going to tear out the main bridge over 87. Is that correct? I think.
No, I think.
No, they're gonna do both of them. I'm pretty positive they're doing both of them.
Yeah, it is
Okay.
both, that they're gonna tear up
They,
both of them.
Okay.
but they may, the reason we're doing that study is they're not sure if we do anything in the upper side, as far as making the floodplain either larger or whatever, that Dredge Creek could change what they want to do on Dredge Creek, because right now, it only really, a couple times a year, it floods in there.
That's correct.
When you get
Gets
flooded.
high enough to-
It's, there's nothing, it's dry bed going under it otherwise. So but they want to get that study, that's why we went with the study. So if we can create more water coming through there and around, so on. But they are going to do both, because there's going to be a little bit of a traffic tie-up.
Yeah, one more expensive than the other. I don't know the total details on it.
If I remember correctly, I was on that tour too, I think we said that we're concerned about timing and everything with doing it too,
Yeah.
because it's a long way to get around, no short way of detouring it, so.
It was scheduled for next year, but we may put it off a year just because of the, having some other traffic tie-ups.
Wasn't
Because there
it-
was no way of going, there was no way, they were looking into the fact, and Brian, you correct me if I'm wrong on this, but they were looking into the fact that there's no real good way to detour around there. Like, all the roads are too narrow, so you can't send trucks around to get, so,
They
and to,
wouldn't take the impact of
yeah,
all
so
the
there's,
traffic.
No.
so we're gonna have to do something, they're gonna have to keep, like, either a light or,
Single lane
yeah,
open or
single lane
something. They were
open.
talking about maybe not doing them both at once, something,
No.
or they where they.
They aren't sure yet what they're gonna have to come up with a plan for us. Definitely Biskin and
Through you, Mayor Bridge, I'm just wondering, Steve Jackson and I have spoken about this on a few occasions, and he once made the comment about the engineering or the engineering firm that might be involved in this study, that there might be another engineering firm that would be better value for us. So I don't know if, is he part of the process as far as choosing who the engineering will be done by?
Yes, Steve met with both the consultants in this meeting. I believe he is supportive of this. I think there was a time where we were doing all this work, if I may, through you, Mayor Bridge, and we weren't certain which way we were going to be going. We started out kind of as a partnership involving the consultants and the Conservation Authority in the town, and then it got to the point where maybe we would just contract the whole thing out. But we were in the midst of the work plan development, and it was so very much expensive. Steve was imagining that maybe the project, or was feeling the project was probably a little bit bigger than what would have been something that we would just give to a local consultant. So he talked about others that maybe have different models and that kind of stuff. But I believe now that we're all proceeding with the information gathering and with splitting the urban and rural up and using the consultants on a case-by-case basis for each of those sections, I believe he's comfortable with that. But I've talked to him as recent as since I've been back, so I do believe he's fine with it now.
okay, because I was gonna say, the general meeting seemed to be, was all right, but then that was with everybody in the room, so Bill's talked to him since?
Yes, and
Okay.
I believe, now, we may get to a point on here where we have to go out to quote, depending on because it mentions in the report, we're going to do a trial model first this winter and see if it's really worth pursuing. We think it will be, but we're gonna model it first and see, and then we may decide as a council in partnership with the Conservation Authority to go out to tender and find one consultant to steer this whole thing, but we have to get to that point first, and this step here, we're recommending you take is to get that additional information gathering in the streams out there in the watershed to help us get more information.
My question was just on the work proposal. They do have floodplain maps in 2015, and then again in 2017. So is it 2017 that we would spend the additional 50,000 that we did budget for mapping, or is?
Right. The one in 2015 is what I call the trial mapping, so they're going to run it through their models, and if it looks like there's gonna be a significant benefit,
Right.
then the full mapping will be produced in 2017, after they've had another year or so of information gathering. So after 2015, when we do the trial, we'll be coming back to you with the results, letting council know where we are, and then speaking with the Conservation Authority, well, now where do we go?
I think having the additional information with the different additional sites up in the watershed will give us a lot more enlightenment. And what I found from the meeting, I thought it was very good, is that we had, as I say, we had everybody in the room, a lot of good discussion, and the fact that somebody's not out doing something like, the county's got their study coming in, we'll coordinate that with Triton, with Dietrich, with the, because actually it's amazing when you see the municipal drain systems that Dietrich's working on, how they go into Wellington North, up into Arthur Township. There's a lot of watershed up there. How many, what was the actual number? Was it totally amazing? The number,
About a third at least.
a third watershed up in there. So there's a lot of pieces have to be put through this puzzle, but I think having everybody at the same table makes a big difference, not doing it in isolation.
Kind of puts the pieces to.
Yeah. And I think Steve was comfortable with that. I think that was good, because at the end of the day, if we want to get anything done with Maitland, they have to be comfortable with the process, because they're the ones that are sort of on the hook, I believe, to do any changes in our floodplain. Am I right on that? Like, it's their recommendation.
Well, in fact, Mayor Bridge, they're actually, like they were initially, they're going to actually do the modeling.
Right, they're doing the modeling, right.
And I think that's to getting to Deputy Mayor Fisk's point. They feel more comfortable doing that now with the new information coming out of the additional gauges in the field. Our recommendation is just to proceed with the work plan. It's a budgeted item anyway.
Yep. Can you, moved by Mayor, by Mayor
Well,
Caldwell.
making mayor.
I'm having, yeah, I was making the mayor, and Ron, having mayor. All in favor? Getting ahead of myself here. Okay.
Mayor Bridge, a couple of items coming out of the last council meeting. First is a little bit additional information on the OPP billing model. You had a resolution from the town of Bancroft, and I think a resolution from another Northern Ontario municipality I forwarded through to you. And it pertains to applying the OPP billing model into unorganized townships. Way back in the early 80s, I worked in the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and helped enforce zoning requirements in the unorganized township, so that was really fun. But there's not much up there as far as municipal organization. And so what they're saying here is the $200 and some per person provision that was quite skillfully, I guess, negotiated amongst all of the organized municipalities into a fairer billing model. They're wanting to levy that same charge into the unorganized municipalities. As to how one would collect that and whether that's fair or not fair, I'm not sure, but my suggestion to you is that you simply just receive that correspondence. But if you'd like more information, I'm afraid we'll have to go back and put a bit more gathering on it. Obviously, the Northern Ontario municipalities are supporting that. There may be cases where they're paying for OPP, and just down the road, there's a group of residents who are not paying anything out of property tax or anything for OPP.
Mayor Fisk.
Through you, Mayor Bridge, I chaired that meeting, and I guess I'm probably responsible for it coming back, and I think the main or the feeling of the meeting at the time was that it might be helpful to have Councillor Faulkner here, as he has some experience in the OPP and in the north, so that's probably the main reason that it did come back. So I don't know if he has anything to add or not.
CAO White was absolutely correct when he said that that is quite a chore to organize an unorganized township. But I totally agree that needs a careful look at that costing.
So do they pay anything now for policing?
No.
No.
No, and I don't know how in the world they will collect that, because there's not just permanent residents there, there's people with camps in the middle of the bush, there's, which
That don't pay necessarily.
That don't pay, no. And
Like, you mean like
and who-
gypsies?
And who's gonna collect for them? Who's gonna collect from them? It's not just a matter of who they're gonna collect from, but who is going to do the collecting? I don't know how that's possible.
So if your detachment got a call to one of these places, did you just write it off, or what did you do as far
Well,
as billing goes?
The billing was, or the assignment of the cost was done by headquarters. We just supplied the details on where we provided the manpower and the assets and let them figure it, because we couldn't. We didn't have the resources or the man-hours to do that. It's that complicated.
I don't know that there's any comparison, but when we went to enforce zoning in these places, I mean, we'd park at some place, get on a boat, go across a lake, down a river, and we'd find one guy building a dock, and you'd have to get him permit from you, so. If it were a call, I don't know how you would even get to half of them. If you did, it might be days or weeks later, and as to the cost of that, I don't know, but I don't mean to make that comparison. It's just a whole different way. It's not like they just go down the street and respond.
Wow, that's right.
It sounds like a new project for the new council.
Yeah.
We're not.
And to even complicate it further, if I might, Mayor Bridge, a lot of the population, so to speak, seasonably, is done with Americans, visitors to the country and whatnot, and a lot of our calls involved somebody, a non-resident, so that even made it more complicated.
And I know they've worked this it's been over 2 years they've been working on this new building, even more. And I know some of the northern communities are paying more now, and maybe they're looking for ways to try to offset some of their additional costs. I don't know, but they've been working on this for a long time, so I'm sure they looked at that and figured out there was no way of doing it. But I don't know if we want to waste any more time on it. I thought
Recommendation to receive.
yeah. Can I have a recommendation to receive? Ron and Rick, all in favor?
Mayor Bridge, the second information report pertains to Crescent Care Retirement Home. It's a joint report prepared by myself, the treasurer, and the business and economic manager, who, along with yourself, met with 2 representatives of Crescent Care. I think I've summarized the information that we received at the meeting. It's not a great deal different than what was reported in one of the local regional papers. I'm not sure how much you want me to go through it. Our recommendation is just to receive the report and provide any direction as to whether you want to provide comments at the November 25th meeting. I think what it comes down to here is a business decision to maintain the health of the facility here in the context of quite a complicated funding mechanism, to put it bluntly. And I guess just to say a personal thing, and I know Councillor Faulkner and Councillor Caldwell were there as well, it seemed to me that the loss of direct jobs, small if any, and that they were talking about better service for the residents that are there. I guess what was new to me, being relatively new to the area, was the fact that a good chunk of those residents aren't from here anyway, they're from out of town, so I think what we said in the meeting, or I said in the meeting, was you lose 9 beds, the odds are increased slightly that you may not get, as a local person, a spot as quickly as you might have received with those 9 beds being here, but, I guess I'll leave it at that, and maybe those at the meeting wanted to add to the report or add to this. I'm not sure I can make a recommendation as to what you might wanna say at the meeting on the 25th. I think one of the things they made clear was that they have a commitment to this facility, that the facility will be here now and in the foreseeable future, and that this decision is being made in order to maintain the viability and health of it.
I just wanted to comment because this was a very emotional topic for myself, and I went into the meeting 100% against taking away the 9 beds. I will admit it. I came out of the meeting still wanting to maintain the 9 beds, but understanding why it isn't feasible. One of the biggest things, and I'm not sure if everyone received the historical occupancy data.
Yeah.
You know, it really shows on there that our occupancy is under the 97%. They don't get the top up if we're under 97%. With the 9 beds gone, we will be assured of hitting the 97%, and also things like the wards will drop from 4 beds to 3 beds was very promising. There would be more private rooms available. As much as I hate to say that I'm wouldn't speak against it, I wouldn't, because I do think that in the long run, it is the best for our community.
Anybody else? I thought they did a good job in the meeting trying to explain it to us, and I think, as Bill said, it's a business decision, and I think one of the big things that came up, and which I didn't realize, is that up until just recently, the LINs topped them up, which I think everybody should realize, but the LINs are you know, they've got areas where they want to put the money as well, and so they've said no more topping up, so that was another reason why they had to come up with the business decision to do this. And the 7 beds, I believe, in Fergus, and 9 from us makes 16, which makes another wing that they will be putting on. And having said this, I was surprised too that the public meeting isn't called by them, it's called by the province. Very few, if any, I asked them how the public meetings usually go, and they said, well, we've never anybody really show up at a public meeting at one of these province ones, so I don't know what's going to happen at this one. Knowing our area, they might have a few people there. But anyways, it was well explained, I thought, and as a business decision, I think you have to stand by that. And I thought they were very open to working with us. And they've got some issues as well that we told them we'd work with them as well, because there's issues on, they're doing, as maybe people are aware of, they're putting a lot of money into keeping people in their own homes longer. I was talking to our people down in Wellington Place, and I think the average age down there now to go into Wellington Place is, what, 88.9. And I believe when I started here 4 years ago, it was like 85. So a lot of people are staying longer at their homes. The problem with that is, though, is when they do go to long care, they're basically not in very good shape, and they don't last very long, unfortunately. And we're having a big turnover at Wellington Place, and basically, and here too. So it's kind of a different, the whole, it's hard to get a handle on the whole healthcare system. There's lots to look at.
I just wanted to mention too, one of the other things that they said that I guess really struck me a little bit was, because we have empty beds, that's why we have the people from out of town. And in some cases, they're individuals that are maybe a little more difficult to work with. There's maybe mental issues as well as very strong, and we don't have the support system currently. That's one of the issues they brought up, is that in the rural community, we don't have the outreach programs. So not only are we getting maybe the more difficult patients, but we don't have the programs to deal with them properly. So,
That's a good point, Mary Lou, and one of the things I was trying to remember what we said we would help them with ministers, and that is to talk about the fact that we seem to be the poor cousins again for outreach programs. People will say, you know, they have people would come into the homes, but they tend to want to stay in the city and not drive all the way up here. It costs them to drive, and they don't. So we have to be a little more proactive and up and help services in our homes as well. So that's it. We would help with that if we could.
Mayor Bridge, we just need a motion to receive the report. If you want to add anything into it, you can. The other alternative is if individuals on council or anyone else wants to go to the meeting November 25th, they can do so.
Through Mayor Bridge, I truly think we should have representation at that
We should
meeting.
have somebody there.
I really
Yep.
truly believe that, because
It's 10 o'clock.
I'm not convinced of all the figures that were, but I certainly concur that Mary Lou brought up the best point, and or Councillor Caldwell brought up the best point, and that's we do not have the outreach programs, particularly mental illness treatment.
If you wish, then you could add that the town be represented at the meeting and that they report back to council on the results.
Yep.
I'll so move that.
Lou, second by Mary Lou, all in favor? Great. Okay. I'll now turn it over to Chair Caldwell for the treasurers.
Okay, and I see now that our
Treasurer
treasurer Duff
made
is
it. I
with
don't,
us.
I, we're,
Oh,
he
he
just
did.
slipped in the.
When I saw you weren't here, I thought, what if they ask a question? I hadn't spoken to you earlier to have
See,
any
what do you got?
idea.
Elaine's taking care of it.
So I'll ask Treasurer Duff to present to us the accounts for November 7th, 2014.
So as you can see, we're really busy right now. A lot of projects on the go. So some of the highlights, we actually had a wildlife damage claim for about $5,800 under the and $9,600 for lapse in expenses. In the Palmerston Industrial Park, we've got another $71,000 on Wilkins Road cul-de-sac. And facade ban, just under the Fire has been using some of their donated money for the Lion Space training, which is $1,500. And Public Works, again, you drive around, you see a lot going on, so. On the road portion of George Street in Harrison, $165,000. Back in the early fall, we awarded the tender for miscellaneous pavement, and that was $181,000. Roadways, catch basin work at $18,000, a little bit more in the 16th line, it's pretty much winds down for $16,000. Improved cloud lanes for $37,000, sure they're being used this week. And more tree cutting and trimming for $32,000. We also undertook the cemetery mapping project at Clifford for $9,100 to CCR. Started replacing some street light poles for $8,000. And again, on Jordan Street, we have more components, so we have the sanitary sewer at $35,000, and the water at $115,000. What we have. And, more work on monitoring the water system, video logging the wells for $9,800. Recreation, we did the senior school and paving that driveway there. $45,000, putting that Clifford ballpark renewed on finished. And we did some paving at the Palmerston Marina for $43,000, and some more T5 fixtures and trim stuff. So, a lot going on in all departments, I'd say.
Yes, there certainly is. Is there any questions? Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, through you, Chairman Caldwell. You mentioned something at the beginning about a wildlife damage claim for $5,800?
Yeah, so that's under the program where the animal owner gets compensated, and then we pay out to them and we get reimbursed.
What was the claim though, or what happened?
Llamas.
Llamas and, yes,
Yeah.
several llamas.
No, alpacas.
Alpacas.
Alpacas. And the coyotes got them.
Now you
There's quite a few of them.
Hmm.
I was quite shocked at that too, and I was
Why is that
checking
true?
and went, what the
Do they
heck?
not have insurance personally?
This is a program.
An agricultural
Okay.
animal.
Agricultural
program.
program.
Yeah, I
We just do we're the agent for it, right?
Oh, okay.
So it's a flow through. But they have to prove
Yeah.
that they,
Donkey.
Alpaca, was that in Texas?
No.
Close, close. Nearly, I thought it was land.
Are there any other questions? Yes.
Through you, Councilor Chair Caldwell, the Clifford, that includes the some of the back streets that were,
The various
paved,
cases?
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
You might remember that contract, I think there were 9 different locations.
9 different locations, yeah, there was a lot, I
3
drove
Queen
around
Streets,
there.
Queen
Yeah,
Street in every town.
Queen Street were
I kept getting confused.
And the last, on George Street, like all the infrastructure now is new on George Street, correct?
And outside,
So that's really good. Thank you.
Okay. The recommendation is the Council of the Town of Minto receives the Treasurer's report dated November 7th, 2014 regarding approval of accounts and approves the Town of Minto accounts by department for November 2014. May I have someone make that motion? Councilor Turton, seconded by Councilor Henry. All in favor? And it's passed. And I turn the chair back to Mayor
Okay.
Bridge.
I'll turn it over to Bill. He's going to do a little presentation here.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge.
Accomplishments.
We are at our last meeting of the term, so I thought, why not reflect a little bit on what you as a group accomplished with the staff team, as many as we could get here.
Put together one line.
So we put together this presentation. Thank you to the department heads. There's a little bit of a tribute at the end too, so I hope you enjoy it. And I won't go into great lengths on some of the written part, but we'll just talk a little bit about where we were back in 2010 when 2 of 7 of you were brand new members of this council, that we had 1 senior management team member close to retirement and a second would soon leave and then retire. And we had an acting clerk. We had then and still do have a dedicated staff. We've had some turnover in some administration positions, and there's a good mixture of strong young talent and experience, and I think that's still here. We had a good range of progressive policy in place when you arrived. We inherited an initiative from the previous council to restructure. We had good practices in some departments. We had well-developed economic development program. You had the Clifford Arena controversy, and you weren't far from the 2008 flood. When you first came in, you, of course, began to bond as a team. You did your first budget. You worked on some restructuring, certainly before I arrived, primarily in the public works area and in the clerk's department. You hired myself.
I
We'll
don't-
go over the
we
history
didn't
of
have a
that
cho-
one.
We didn't have a
I wasn't there, I had nothing to do with the hiring.
It wasn't highlighted, Bill.
But,
We all must have been here.
and the rest is history, so let's go on.
Actually, you were hired by 2 councils.
Yes, I was.
Yes.
No thanks to you, Mayor Bridge.
Idiots.
Anyway.
We know it.
You were dealing with the trailer park liability, and you reformed your procedural bylaw, and you have an excellent committee structure in place now. Early accomplishments, so you went through quite a thick orientation budget binder, and thank you to Deputy Mayor Fisk for bringing that one in. He may be the only one that kept it, I don't know, but it led the league for being the thickest piece of material I think we've ever presented. But, you did a retirement and settlement with the recreation director. You brought in the lead hand and facilities and recreation separation. You reorganized public works into roads and drainage and water and utilities sections, and you focused the efforts out of the Harrison shop. And you've gone to 2 council meetings per month with standing committees of council being fire, finance, and public works. You developed a policy for the trailer park closure. We've got quite a number of them out of here in that time, and I mentioned that last part there already. The fire department, we went through, and this is just some quick highlights, so I'm not going to take a lot of time on each. You grew the insurance coverage for the volunteers. You completed a master fire plan in-house using no consultants. Police Fortier helped the chief and the group go through that process. That group facilitated the emergency services part of the strategic plan. In fact, we did the strategic plan in-house and had facilitators that volunteered their time and came in and helped us. You completed the fire hall addition within budget. You've enhanced the communication there. In fact, the social media campaign is recognized across the province, and you'll recall that the fire chief went down to the last conference and did a presentation on that. You have established some part-time administration support in there. That we've had an excellent person in that, but unfortunately that person's not going to be able to stay in there part-time forever. So that will be a challenge for them moving forward. You have the combined now fire prevention position that you hired from within. So Cam Forbes took all that training, and he's now shared in terms of bylaw enforcement, fire prevention. And he actually had 3 emergency responses: the April 13th ice storm, the December 23rd ice storm, and April 2014, where we came close to another flood. So that was a lot of good experience. I know in most cases the mayor was out of town for those. I think the mayor was there for one of them. But it was good how everybody kind of stepped in and that worked out. So fortunately, we're still going through the interesting process of trying to recover our flood or our ice storm costs near now a year later. So building department, you facilitate a service reduction from 2 people to 1.5 positions. So that saved some money over that time period, and that actually came from the department itself. They felt they could function in that way, and it has worked. They did the building sector plan, part of the strategic plan. 80 new homes and 45 million in development. That's an approximation, but that's a significant amount of work went through there in 4 years. All along that time, he was enforcing new requirements in the building code for energy efficiency. We increased your role in the site plan approval process. You had plans for W.C. Smith, the new Tim Hortons, a lot of other things come through here that you were able to approve. Mention again the part-time position shared with fire department. And of course now we're into the whole source water management role, and our RMI, risk management inspector, is now our CBO, and we're ahead of the game on that. And that's thanks to good work by you as a group on that, and the county supporting us. Economic development, I mentioned that was one of the most well-developed departments even coming in here. And again, that we had a meeting this morning with some of the county consultants, and I think that was echoed again. But since that time, the marketing and social media presence has been expanded. We had a new position hired in that area. Unfortunately, since that time, pretty much someone's been on maternity leave, but we've had some excellent work in that area. You did finalize the cultural plan, which was started in the previous council, and you established the roundtable, which has led to some really fantastic cultural events and activities in the community resulting from that cultural plan. The Treasures of Minto website, the cultural mapping portal. The last of the red funds were spent in the Palmerston downtown and in Lions Park. Of course, the staff and you hosted the Creative Economy Summit, the Move to Minto campaign, which in the case of Terry and I worked, brought us here a year or so into the term. And as I mentioned, a number of cultural days, events, quite a few sales. Belinda's basically sold us out in Hairston, and we're well on our way to selling out in Palmerston. So there's some of the projects where you sold land. So, and of course, we took Launch It from a glimmer in someone's eye to feasibility to implementation in quite a quick time frame, and that's through the leadership of Rick and the Economic Development and Planning Committee in that work. So, and a lot of good facilitation work. We had some of our staff head off to some facilitation training, and they brought back a lot of that good work, which we've used a number of cases in the strategic plan for recreation, for economic development, and some of the downtown meetings we've had. So that's been very helpful. The lead hand structure and facilities, we had that wonderful public meeting up in Clifford where the room was full and a couple hundred people ready for a fight, and I think we managed to work through that. I believe it's a good decision to still have the arena open up there. We've been able to get 35 to 40 hours. We shortened the season a little bit to save some costs. A lot has happened in Clifford, and I know those of you on the campaign trail, some of you heard good things, some of you heard bad things, but as far as I'm concerned, a lot of money spent up in Clifford on a lot of good things in the park, the new trail system, the playing fields, the washrooms. Got the ball field, the old ball field sold. That should close sometime in December. So, I mean, that's a lot of your initiative there on supporting those things coming forward from the management team on that. We actually closed a couple of ball fields, believe it or not, and one was sold for the OPP station in Tibiadale and one for the the development that's occurring in Clifford, but we did replace the one in Clifford, and the community is now upgrading it with lighting and dugouts and fencing, and that's a good thing, and you've loaned them some money to help them finish that. We've upgraded that Harrison Senior Center. It looks great. The Grey Wellington Theatre washrooms are done. The Palmerston Lions Park, I think you've put all the trimmings on that. The walkway at the end of it has been completed. The work in the pavilion with now washrooms, fencing and tree planting all along where we had those old encroachments into those environmentally sensitive areas. You've done all the compressors and condensers that needed to be condensed and compressed. You did the Harrison Curling Club roof, we hope.
How many times?
One last time, it did have a water test. It seems to have worked. There was one last leak. They did do some repairs. Any luck, it won't leak this season.
So Al can now take his finger out of
The dike. We also did some major event planning, and we did keep $5,000 out of it, even though Saugeen Summer Nights never materialized twice. We did actually make $5,000. And we've got improved communication at the Palmerston Museum, and there'll be more coming forward on that. On the recreation side, 2 new grassroots programs getting people, young kids started in sports programs. I know the deputy mayor even got the blades on and was out with the grassroots hockey group. So we sustained our initiatives at the pool. We've got a lot of fundraising done and even a slide put in. We have a new charitable donations policy. We refined our alcohol policy, and a lot of municipalities around here have now gone to a similar approach to us. So that's a good thing, and Matt was working with some of them to help them do that. And we had to do all the license updates, which was fun, and I know Matt put a lot of work into that as well. And we facilitated the transition of the Harrison Senior Center into a new model, and that model is soon to be applied, I think, to the Lawn Bowling Association as well. And then you can see how the debt at Morgan has been progressively worked on. We went to digital work there, so we purchased a new digital program, a new digital projector, and that saved actually in some of the time that was needed to pay for projector workers. And we got into some interesting fundraisers. Some are really good, some not as good, but it was great to see that initiative, and that's going to happen. We got into the free PD Day and Snow Day programs where we kind of open it up our facilities on the short term and let the kids use them for nothing, which is a good thing. So, and I don't know if you knew, but I guess most of you would know, because if you ever had a BlackBerry problem, you always went to Matt, and he's done a lot, including helping me get this presentation ready today. So, in the finance here, Gordon and his group, PSAB compliance, that's like a dirty word now. We don't ever want to hear that again, but he also, in addition to doing that, we had more performance measures to report more information on. And we had a water and sewer financial plan that was required by regulation. We had a tangible capital asset management plan that was also required by regulation. And we had a green energy plan that was required by regulation. Those were all done through the Treasury Department with varying amounts of consulting help. But I know Gordon worked an awful lot and is kind of renowned for, if they ever need any questions on tangible capital asset management planning, they call him, especially if it's a municipality our size. So, and that served us well, because we've been very, very successful in our grant applications, and that's mentioned here. So Gordon's been able to use that. We're also doing some work on the Harrison Force Main. We got to use the unused balance of the fund that was left over, which was kind of neat. That didn't happen everywhere. Sometimes they just took that away and you'd never see it. So Gordon was able to secure that. And you can see the 2 grant applications, and we have moved to the second round on both our other ones. So the, yes, those 2 in acronyms.
That's easy.
One is the downtown Harrison, and the other is the Bride Road culvert. So they're into the next stage. Not everybody's on to that, so thank you to Gordon and his group for that. And then last but not least, some other things like water meters in almost 99% of the homes. We had the reassessment. We've mitigated the reassessment to some degree by having lower than average tax increases, for lack of a better way of putting it. We've helped mitigate some of those higher assessment increases, even though you really can't tell because people's assessment went up so much. But anyway, and Gordon's group provides support for culture and economic development, and he facilitated the environmental and agricultural side of the strategic plan. So all of that work is a lot of work, and the finance chair and you were very much supportive of the things that Gordon brought forward to you. Public Works, Palmerston Inflow and Infiltration. We relined some services there. We sealed some manholes, and we added 100 more units to what's available in sewage capacity in Palmerston. And we do believe, with finding that the whole Norwell Secondary School is going into our sanitary sewer, we'll probably increase to the point where we may not need a sewage use bylaw into the future, but that remains to be seen. You switched over to a 40-hour summer work week to take advantage of the longer light and the time when contractors are out on the road more. You did the roads needs study and started the vehicle replacement plan. Even though we know we can't pay for it, we at least know what we have to get to at the time. You've approved a new snow removal policy. You've gone to an on-call winter control program that helps reduce overtime. The challenge there is finding people to fill those on-call positions. We did Highway 9 on Laura Street. It was probably one of the worst projects any of us have ever been involved with, just from a weather, timing, traffic perspective. And I know it was a challenge for our consultant and our contractor, but at the end of the day, it looks really, really good. Did Ayton Road, did the 4th line, did the 16th line culvert, did both sides of the Coon Creek Bridge, the Bride Road culvert, which I called Bridge Road for most of the summer, and nobody corrected me. And then George Street as well is just about finished. And some new work in the wells in the Palmerston water system. Sewage plant assumption, we're taking that over from Center Wellington, and in January, with your support, we've got the staff in place. They're all trained, and Mark Robertson will be coming back to head that area for us. So again, more in-house succession planning there. And of course, the DWQMS, which is kind of one of those words like PSAB you don't want to hear so much of. But just in the administrative side of things, Annalene and Peg, certainly a lot of support from those two in the work that we do in the administration. We don't do annual presentations. It's just not as interesting as things like economic development and recreation. But we did a procedural bylaw where you're into committee of the whole. We put in the question period. I know you were worried about that, but it worked out not too badly. Remember, we tendered out for legal services, and I think our new legal team has served us well, and he'll be coming back to see you, and I'd like to continue with that contract with them. We went out for insurance RFP, and you saved $20,000 a year, and you had a 3-year rate guarantee on that, so you saved the municipality $60,000. It was a tough break from an insurer that had provided great service for us, but so far, really, it's been just excellent working with the new firm too. You've taken in-house a lot of the subdivision and site plan agreement negotiation, which had been farmed out to legal before. Now we're doing that in-house. We did over 23 land transactions. I wish I got a commission for them all, but a lot of work for
Yeah.
sending things to lawyers, getting things back from lawyers. Annalene and Peg did a lot of that communication work. You have a BlackBerry communication policy. You've updated your pay policy. You formed a job evaluation committee, and I think you're going to have labor stability here, at least for another few years. And I think you have a generally happy and progressive and strong workforce. We've gone to improved minute taking and electronic follow-up. We hope to take the next council into paperless agendas early in the process. And we started to review the purchasing bylaw, but we never did finish that. That'll be coming back as well. Non-departmental, you have a new strategic plan. You had the Harrison floodplain strategy. You recorded and broadcast your council meetings. We started footprints to forest and trees for Minto, and we hope that carries on. You have a new budget format and communication procedure. There's some of the main projects that came in county-wide with the OPP station, the Harrison Library upgrades. and community partnership, which saw the Harrison Historical Society and the Minto Arts Council move into the upper floor. And of course, we've got the Palmerston Library to come, so we'll see what happens there. And then the source water plan review ×2, and your lobbying at the province, I think, made a big difference, and that ended up getting funding for everyone across the province. And I don't think you should ever underestimate your role in that, because that when we went there, they were always listening, because we went with solutions, and certainly appreciate the support that you gave to that. And it turns out the Maitland source water plan will be approved here in the next few days. I think the province has just said, to heck with it, we're just going to approve all those plans. So we're ready for that, and that'll mean we have the position shared with the county and some admin support so that we can do that with the complement that we have now. So we took some poverty awareness. We did the in-motion challenge, as mentioned. We won all those. I'm not so sure that I wouldn't want to challenge us again now that Councillor Hembley's.
Yeah, that's right.
Out. I might take us on again.
Mr.
But
10K.
anyway, and then you also settled 2 lawsuits. I was looking over the orientation binder, and they were both front and center, and those are now gone. And in one case, we got land, and quite a bit, which will have value over time, and I'm quite sure will pay off when we sell those lands with, we'll pay more than what we paid for them. And also the Ayton Road lawsuit was settled with a very, very low payout and no liability on our part. So we also started the solar program, and we are getting $10,000 a year for 20 years, so that's a couple $100,000 for that. So if we ever did get the other 7, which may come back, that'd be $1 million or more of revenue. So I just wanted to thank all of you on behalf of the senior management team. I know Al Carr, Terry Fisk couldn't be here, Chris Harrow, the others are here for you. It's just been a real pleasure, and thank you for all your support. I think you have a lot to be proud of. You did 11 delegations in 4 years, and they want to hear from you, and I think you carried on with the good tradition that had been started here in Minto, and I hope over the next 4 years we will do another 11 more or delegations. So it was a new council. You were very thoughtful and supportive. You supportive staff succession. We have positive labor relations here, as I mentioned, and a number of community development initiatives. So just with that, on behalf of the management team, thank you, and just did a little presentation, so see if you like this part here. So just watch.
Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Time grabs you by the wrist, direction where to
November.
go. So make the best of this test and don't ask why. It's not a question but a lesson learned in time. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. So take the photographs and still frames in your mind, hanging on a shelf in good health and good time. Tattoos and memories and dead skin on trial. For what it's worth, it was worth all the while. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your
There.
life.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. Look at the snow one.
It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life. something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.
That was one of your council meetings.
Talk.
Rick, if I can get you and Deputy Mayor Fisk to come up, we have a little something from the council for you.
Bye, George.
Yeah.
Is that Miami Beach?
That was right here.
As you may or may not have been aware, we had you had to deliver your thing here, just a little piece of paper, so. Did you notice that?
Yeah, you're sneaky.
Yeah.
Damn politicians.
Actually, I don't need this, do I? Oh, yeah, I need, okay. I just wanted to take this opportunity, and I think Bill did a good job of wrapping it up there with some great pictures. And you know, it was a great 4 years, and we had a lot of fun. We did a lot of good work, I believe, and as Bill pointed out, and with our staff. And so we just wanted to give you something just to remember us by a little bit. So Terry, here's yours. A little picture of us all together, and there's your nameplate. And Rick, here's one for you as well, with a little bit of Palmerston. And thanks for all your help.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I've really enjoyed the 4 years that I've spent here. I'm going to miss it, but that was my choice, and I have to suffer the consequences. But it has been enjoyable. I've really enjoyed the staff. I will tell you that you probably have the best staff anywhere, and I hope you continue to look after them and see that they are properly trained and upgraded, because we're really fortunate, and they're young. That's the best part of it. They're going to be here long after us old guys are gone. So thanks again. It's been a wonderful 4 years, and I wish the new council well in the upcoming 4 years.
I can't look at Belinda, I'll cry. You know, they are going to miss you, Terry. No, honestly, it's been a pleasure working with you. 4 years. Here, look at me. This is crazy. You know, it's been a pleasure and an honor to serve the people of Minto. I sat in the first council for the new town of Minto, and I thought, and there's a few people here that sat in it, this is ridiculous. But you know what? I can honestly say today that it was a good decision. Like Mike Harris or not, I think he done us a favor. I think it's a great town. I would like to think that I helped in making this a great place to live. Belinda, you've done a great job. I'm going to miss you. Gord, you were always there with us. Like that was my forte, was economic development, obviously. And God, when I got back in, the 1 year I didn't run, and I got back into politics because I thought that there's some things didn't happen during that time that I wasn't here, and they hired Belinda, and that was one of the best things they'd ever done. And thank you very much, Belinda. I just look at all the economic development isn't just new business, new industry. It's parks and rec. It's public work. It encompassed everything in the town, and I'm really proud of what's gone on here since the amalgamation. Honestly, God, I really do think this is probably the best community in Canada to live. It really is. It's been a pleasure working with all you guys, past councils. I got nothing bad to say about anyone or the town. I never ever BS'd anybody. You know, just be honest and be true to yourself. That's what people like. I only, like Cowan said at that little get-together we had, I actually only campaigned 1 year, and that was the year that we amalgamated in Minto. After that, I never ever campaigned. And you're right, Hound. I told people they don't know what I stand for. You asked me, I told you the truth. I never ever BS'd anybody once, and maybe that's why they didn't come back the second time to see if I'd changed my mind, but I never did. The press, you've been very kind to me. Thank you. That's all I'm going to say. But no, it's been a pleasure working with everybody, and hopefully everyone carries on, and we do have a great staff, great people in this community. I'm going to miss you guys, I really am. But it's time for me to play, so
Yeah, exactly.
off I go. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Did you want a picture? Guys, Terry? They want a picture.
Photo op.
That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do our coach stuff. That's all really good one. Right here.
You got your wide angle lens on there?
Welcome to Anderson. Thurston. You did a great job for us. Just one other thing I'd like to say is, one thing I'm proud of is, down in Cambridge where I work, they had these streets, and they're called poppy streets, and everybody knows what the poppy streets are. They were named after veterans, not basically the ones that lost their life, but living veterans and that came back. And I brought that to council a few years ago, I think. Maybe Dave and Judy might have been on when we did bring that. And I'm proud that we do now, any new street that we have in the town of Minto is named after someone who did serve for our nation. And I'm very proud of that. It's nice to see. You know, I wish we had more new streets every year, but
Can't afford them.
we'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Other business, additional items, and I had a bunch. Ron, we'll start at Ron and go.
I'm not gonna bring anything up. I'll talk about the staff after. That was that's a good finisher right
Okay.
there.
And Ron?
Yeah, just the ditto all the remarks, and I just want to say to Deputy Mayor Fisk and to Councillor Hembley, it was indeed a pleasure serving with you too. And I'm going to tell you, I've been on executive committees and management committees during my 38 years of policing, including provincial bodies. Without a doubt, this was the best group I've ever worked with. My compliments to everyone.
Do you have anything?
Once again, I just want to say thank you to both of our departing members. You've been great to work with, and Belinda made my announcement, which was the Chamber of Commerce get-together on December the 1st at 7 o'clock at Harry Stone's.
Yeah, same here, Mayor Bridge. It's been a pleasure sitting right here beside Terry. And the number of years that Rick and I spent on this, it's been all good. And I just wish you guys all the best and continue to volunteer and stay vocal and visible. Good luck to you both.
Harry, you want to say anything more, or are you already?
Well, I got some questions.
Oh, questions. Well, Harry's got actual work here. Go for it.
Yeah, I had it brought to my attention about the state of the flag at the horticultural park, which is up near the Maitland River there. I don't know if that's our responsibility or not.
See Matt Wrighton.
It should at least be taken down, whether it's replaced or not, but it's in bad shape.
Yeah,
That's better no flag than what's there, I would say.
That's ours.
I would say basically it's ours,
Gotta
but
get it.
it probably, because that flagpole, it's amazing. It doesn't have a thing to go up and down, so you gotta pull it
And
all
it's
down.
actually a tree is growing around it, which
No, it should be gone.
probably contributes.
It's been better take it down.
I'm just wondering about the, we've never really spoken about the election and the, some of the problems with respect to ballots not being received, and do you do a debriefing, or do we just wait till next election and hope it's better?
through you, Mayor Bridge, there is a debriefing coming up with MPAC. It seems that every year we change the list, we upgrade the list, we do everything we can to get the list to be more current than it turns out being. And so there is debriefing. Every effort is made to make the list more and more correct. But so far, we have not found the magic solution. I would say that our experience here is probably not a whole lot different than most any other municipality. It's certainly no different than Georgian Bluffs was in 2010. And it has to do with tenancy, primarily with tenants. But what was disappointing is sometimes members or voters who are deceased and so forth that we felt we took off the list that somehow got put back on. And so the short answer is yes, we do debrief. Yes, we put all the changes in that came as a result of this election, and we can only hope that our list is better next time.
And one final item is the 16th line bridge open yet? I spoke with somebody that lives out there, and they said it wasn't open as of Friday.
No, but it will be open this week, for the rail.
So did they get everything done, or were they penalized at all for the project?
They will be.
They will be?
Yeah, they ran out of what they call weather time, right?
Yeah, we gotta get the weather time and straighten out.
That's it?
Okay, thanks, Chair. I just want to wrap up by saying that it's been, as I say before, I said at the beginning, it's been a great 4 years to work with this crew, and I feel and I didn't realize until Bill actually did that presentation, a lot of accomplishments, a lot of neat things being done. As I said, after the election, it was bittersweet. One thing I didn't want to lose, but I was bittersweet that Terry's not going to be with us in the next 4 years, because I think we had a pretty good team going. And anyways, but that's the way it is. And other than that, I have nothing more.
Did you want me to do a presentation on the election, or mail voting, or anything like that?
No, thanks, Ron. I think we'll leave it for the update. I will say that I was proud of the fact that Minto had the highest percentage of return, 55%, than anywhere in Wellington County for mail or otherwise. I was proud of that like at least we got that 55% of people who went out and voted. I mean, there was some mistakes, and there were some things that people didn't get ballots. We had to go back and get ballots to them and all that stuff. But I was happy with the way the staff worked on that, and I was when they had occasions, they did try to get it corrected as best as they could. So, yeah, there's no perfect system, unfortunately. Moved by Councillor Caldwell, second by Councillor Faulkner, that the Committee of the Whole convenes into regular council. All in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Faulkner, second by Councillor Turton, that the Council of the Town of Minto ratifies the motions made in the Committee of the Whole. All in favor?
Mayor Bridge, you have amended bylaws that were emailed to you,
Right.
the ones in your package.
We're wrong.
We're wrong.
Okay. Council agenda number 14A, moved by Councillor Faulkner, second by Councillor Caldwell, that the bylaw number 2014-69 being the bylaw to authorize the stopping up and closing part of unopened John Street East road allowance in Clifford between Brown Street South and William Street South, former village of Clifford, Town of Minto, be introduced and read in first, second, and third time and passed open council and seal of the corporation. All in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Turton, second by Councillor Elliott, bylaw number 2014-84 being the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the November 17, 2014 Committee of Council meeting be introduced and read first, second, and third time and passed open council seal of the corporation. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Hemley, second by Deputy Mayor Fisk, that the Council of the Town of Minto adjourn to meet again at the call of the Mayor. All in favor? Thank you. Good meeting.